My name is Bruno Herrmann from LT Innovate, and today I have the pleasure to talk to Anna. Anna, how are you today?
Hi, Bruno. Very well. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thanks for accepting the invitation to talk to us and the LT Innovate community. Obviously, Anna, I heard about you many times, and I had the pleasure to include you in one of our panels at LT Innovate last year. All great experiences and all great insights from you. But before going into some of our topics, can you just, for people who might not know you, can you just explain who you are, what your experience, what's your background, so that people can just frame what they're going to listen?
With pleasure, Bruno. Thank you. So I come from a linguistic background. I did some research on machine translation when it still was rules-based or statistical machine translation, so quite a bit of time ago. And research also in controlled languages and how they can be successful and add value to automatic processing of languages. I've been on a couple of teams and always focusing on language quality, building up teams from the ground up, and servicing international business in general. So making sure that the product that the company was proposing to the world was making sense in local destinations. I'm part of Women in Localization as well, and I'm based out of Paris, France.
Great, great. A voice from France. That's perfect. But it's good that you mentioned that you're also part of Women in Localization, because I know many people watching this video will know about Women in Localization or are even members of Women in Localization. So, as you are a leader in language intelligence, I think the first topic we should talk about is transformation. Transformation. Everybody talks about transformation today because of AI, of course, because of generative AI. But of course, transformation goes beyond technology. It goes to the way we work, the way we think. And that's why language intelligence is a very relevant topic, very timely topic today, because language intelligence is pushing the boundaries, the traditional boundaries of multilingual content, which have been translation localization for many years. You just mentioned your experience with machine translation. I come from the same background, so I remember the first steps in machine translation, not neural, but statistical machine translation. So maybe talking about transformation, if I can ask you your general perspective on the drivers of this transformation in multilingual content, knowing, of course, that, as I said, it goes beyond translation localization. So how do you see the transformation going on, not just from a pure tech perspective? Technology is important, but also, in terms of how people work and in terms of how workflows are being shaped today. What is your daily experience with that?
So I might sound a bit conservative, but I still see this transformation as something that is pivoting definitely around the technology advancement that is unprecedented and that we are experiencing in our lifetime. But the value generation, in my opinion, is still fully governed by how human beings are adapting to change. And this is something that is not necessarily machine-driven or AI-driven or process-driven, but is rather part of an asset that is typically the asset of linguists. I've been very lucky to build teams for very large communities, and if there is one thing that really sticked with me is the creativity of these individuals. People that work with language are very much used at observing change, at adhering to change, and at evolving as change happens. So it is definitely a transformation, and I'm pleased that there is a discourse around content management today as being focused on the moving away from legacy technology like translation memories, for example. And I'm looking forward to that space and how understanding how that's going to evolve. But at the end of the day, a friend, and she's an expert in LLM evaluation, she gave me a very succinct and interesting quote. Who is it that evaluates technology? It's human beings. End of the story, she said as well. And so to me, this is really representative of where we are at right now. Of course, I mean, experts describe the end of a curve in terms of adoption craziness. But to me, all along, it has been about putting experts to operationalize what AI gives us. So yeah, it might be very conservative, but I see this happening on a daily basis, and the industry also seems very focused on continuous evaluation.
A great point, actually. I don't think you are conservative. I think you are realistic. I think, it's about being in synchronization with the reality. The reality is what it is. It's not made of hype. It's not made of craziness, as you said. It's made of what needs to be delivered. What needs to be executed. And of course, humans are not disappearing. But I think you mentioned another great point, which is that humans are very important. End of the story. This is another way to say that humans should not just be in the loop, but they should be in the center, in control of what's going on. If you can maybe share your view on the evolving role of humans let's say, in multilingual content management. Of course, some people watching this video today, they are linguists, they are terminologists, they are maybe project managers. So how do you see, in general, the evolution of these human roles? What's your take on this very specific aspect of human transformation?
There was a very nice article I've recently read about. It's multilingual, and it's about MTP burnout. The speed and the cost, the low costs required for multilingual content management at scale are unfortunately something that are given for granted, right? So something should be efficient, something to be cost efficient, and also done quickly. I liked this article because I was surprised to see a focus on the users of technology. And sometimes we don't have this attention to enablers of the ultimate deliverable, that is the core business of our industry, that is communication at scale in different languages. And to me, and again, maybe I'm very conservative, but to me, an happy linguist is the job is done. If we have a team of very strong individuals that can identify with the brand, they become brand ambassadors, and they can even influence large pools of linguists while we scale. So in terms of the role, I think there is an unprecedented pressure that AI puts in no matter what field. I've read nice quotes from experts recently that describe a drive for efficiency that is just additional pressure, and lack of purpose. So I would hope that the role of human beings, the role of us human beings, is to design that purpose, to make the most of something that is so powerful as LLM technology, to really shape when to utilize it and what it can produce, let alone the dependency, that the risks correlated to the dependency that we have on this technology. Only companies that are of the size of Google, OpenAI, Anthropic can build these powerhouses, and we are 100% reliant on those tools. If a tool hallucinates, we can't sometimes we just don't understand why. And so human beings today, yes, maybe the input and output has changed towards prompting and designing prompting and making sure that the tool can understand what we want that tool to perform, to deliver. But also what I'm looking at is more important in terms of responsibility. Reshape AI. Women in Localization has this beautiful project, right? And it's happening across tech. I think probably because we just celebrated Women's Day in France. All days are Women's Day, I'm very proud to say. But yeah, what is the role of underrepresented communities in managing bias with AI? That's something that probably we as human beings collectively need to step up towards.
Another great point that you made indeed about technology is that technology is, of course, a great asset when you use it properly, when you use it for a purpose. That's why, the famous why is so important. Why do we use technology? Why is it for, etc. So the why before the what and the how. It's very important to know the direction that we want to take. And I think you also touched on another very touchy, I would say, topic for discussion, which is this balance between technology as a booster, as an enabler, and technology as a dependency. So I think, it has to be a balance. It's not the one or the other. It is amplifying humans, but at the same time, it makes some humans more depending on technology. So it's about humans to, and I'm going to borrow your word, to be more responsible about what they do with technology. From a human perspective, but simply also from a relevance perspective. You mentioned how AI should not ignore or should not overlook underrepresented communities, avoiding, of course, bias, avoiding gaps, etc. So I think this is a very, very timely aspect of transformation, which is to make sure that it's really driven by a purpose, that it's not sort of a race without destination. And another question about transformation I had for you, in LT Innovate, we talk very often about what sort of outcome this transformation is going to lead to. And a number of people talk about elevating multilingual content management into knowledge management, something bigger than just content. Would you agree with that?
Ontologies are the guardrail of AI. And so what has traditionally been that person in that remote office managing terminology, for example, managing documentation, has become someone that can help the organization can prevent the organization from surrendering to AI, and that can help the organization keep keep AI reliable and feed AI with good domain-specific knowledge. So I would definitely agree that in our role within content management in companies, in enterprises, and from our backgrounds, where probably some of us have really studied linguistics and language, we are very well positioned to demonstrate that there is a technique and that there is a practice, that there are best practices as well to really manage that knowledge. I would agree, therefore, with your statements. Here, the question ultimately will come down to how we are positioning, but also how will leadership listen, right? So that's the whole point, and it makes a huge difference. But I guess we should look at virtuous cases and people that are really testifying to a healthy shift, sustainable shift, grounded shift. There are some companies that are not using AI at all in language management. There are some companies that are native AI first. So to me, it ultimately really depends on context, fortunately.
This leads me to another topic I wanted really to discuss with you today. It's value creation. Sustainable transformation without value creation is not possible. You have to demonstrate, you have to deliver value with what you are transforming, whether it's tech-driven or human-driven or process-driven. Based on your experience, what is the main challenge to measure and, well, first of all, to capture and then to measure value created by language management and language intelligence, in this case, being multilingual?
Yeah. While you were raising this question, I was also thinking how maybe it has become a bit boring to say, oh, yeah, you need to be at the right table. Oh, yeah, you need to, make sure that localization comes first and it's part of any launch. Oh, you need to make sure you're knocking at the right door. I used to say this as well. And I'm still convinced that presence is the key word in terms of, being next to people that have a need and you supporting them. That's the service overall. But I guess value is probably something that needs to take a different shape. We can't continue complaining of us not being consulted. I'm going back to the basics, and linguistic testing has taken a totally different atmosphere, because it's so much less mechanical than what it used to be, thanks to AI. And also being in the shoes of users, I still think that this is the most powerful element. User-driven metrics are the ones that speak to the business right away, without any need to articulate what that value is. Of course, there is value in running user-centric activities, and increasing the pool of users is what any enterprise would wish for. I assume that we also have to be realistic as to our role. We are not generating. We are not teams that generate bookings, but we accompany and we service our colleagues. So sometimes there is this language for people that work with US companies that anybody is a stakeholder. Yes, absolutely. But at the end of the day, they're colleagues. So we sit at the intersection of something very delicate, that is the relationship between design, product, and multilingual experience. So let's wear that, user experience expertise hat more responsibly, and let's step forward to really look into what the experience and the product is.
Most of these people have experienced this limitation of their value to what is being transformed, because content management, for some people, specifically people working in translation localization, it was limited by the fact that these people were considered as transforming and not creating. So they were, of course, very, very visible, I should say, in terms of, yes, we transform content from English into content in Spanish or in German, Italian, etc., but they were not seen as part of the whole supply chain, which starts from creation to delivery. And they were just in a sort of limited phase of the supply chain, which was called translation or localization. But now we see more and more people, language professionals, who can really use and leverage their experience and their expertise in language in other activities than just translation localization. Content design, content development, user experience, you mentioned it, testing. So it's not just shifting left, it's also shifting left and right. I think that's what most language professionals should be aware of. But did you also experience something that I heard so many times? The fact that people said, yes, I have a great set of metrics, but these are production metrics, productivity metrics, millions of words, number of languages. These are called vanity metrics. And I think vanity is really appropriate here. So did you also experience this challenge of getting out of the metrics related only to productivity?
Yes, absolutely. Unfortunately, what I'm reading and what I'm hearing from practitioners is still very focused on core vanity metrics, as you describe them, and I really like the definition. So throughput and even quality, right? Where quality doesn't necessarily mean much because it means so many different things for different people. And I typically think about different perceptions. To me, quality management is about managing perceptions in a given moment, right? Where success is a chain of magical events. So the local teams are really very important people to work with. Again, they're our colleagues. They know what they're doing. Maybe we don't at all, and so making them happy, following what their requirements are, is super important. And I think, if anything, AI is really helping us get rid of English. Stop being anchored to a workflow that chains us to being English first and English centric. So finally we could create prompts in a language and just prompt in that language with that cultural definitions of language that pertain to the brand, working with the teams, and then working on what users feel precious. I think that's very important.
I like the word precious, which is better than relevant. Actually, precious gives a real dimension of effectiveness and value. Think, because we talk a lot about relevance, being relevant data, etc. But I think it's more about precious. Precious is indeed, more connected with value. Maybe it's just semantics, but it's important. Words matter. We know that. And maybe a last question for this chat from my side. Obviously, value creation means also bringing people together and making people work together. So I think you have a very nice position, because you worked on the supplier side, you worked on the client side. So you know how both types of organizations are operating, the operating models, etc. So since you worked on both sides, what would be the advice you would give to someone who would be struggling to actually, establish bridges between suppliers and clients?
Build champions, knowledge champions, and put them in front of the client. So I think ultimately, if the person that I'm meeting, that you're describing here in Fantasy, is a language service provider, or someone that is dealing with linguists on one side and with buyers on the other side, I guess it's a moderator role, the one that they need to play. And probably the most important element that I'm hearing from so many intelligent folks is transparency. And, there used to be this definition of vendors being a black box.
Yeah.
And it sounds very much like in the 80s, but I'm not sure. I still hear about this feedback, right? And so perhaps transparent systems are systems that excel because there is a direct connection between supply and demand, and that connection ultimately there is no metric for that, by the way.
Mhm.
So that could be a new thing to look at. Frictionless knowledge
Yes.
exchange, right, or service delivery. Yeah.
And actually, you just mentioned that, it's difficult, something that is difficult to measure. But this is because, of course, it goes beyond alignment of processes. It also goes to human interaction.
Right.
So between humans on one side and humans on the other side. So because I think that there is a lot of focus, which is right, but there is a lot of focus on alignment of processes, tools, technology in general, etc. Great. But if you miss the human edge, which is the connection between, let's say, someone on the supplier side and someone on the client side, I think the rest will not just create value. I think you do need this human touch, this human control to actually say, yes, two organizations work together, but these two organizations are not just made of systems and ecosystems. They are made of people. Well, Anna, thanks a lot for your sharing and your perspectives today. It was great to hear from somebody who has such a wealth of experience and expertise. So I'm sure that our audience would really find this fascinating. And we look forward to meeting you again in person soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruno. Thank you so much.